Uber Eats or Instacart, some of them are so stupid. Like they don't know how to do anything in the app. They expect you to do everything.
Hey, good day, everybody, and welcome to Serve America with me, your host, Andre Pace, and my co-host, Rhett Williams. As you can see, we are on Zoom yet again. It's been a while since we've used our Zoom for it, but I decided to take things up a little bit. And so we're going to have, this was not going to be too long. I have other engagements later on. But I guess I want to get right down to the nitty gritty of what I really wanted to talk about, at least at the beginning portion of this. Donald Trump has already come out and announced that he's going to run for president in 2024. We kind of expected that was going to be the announcement he was going to make on the 15th. And there are some things in his speech. I don't know if you watched the whole thing. It was quite lengthy, for Trump, he talks long anyway, but for an announcement speech like that to go almost 3 hours is still pretty lengthy for Donald Trump. But I think there were some areas of improvement that President Trump could have made in his speech. But I think overall it was really very, very good. And if he can keep that same type of energy and message going, he needs that in order to rebound.
You're not very loud. I tried turning up my headphones, but it's not changing anything.
Let's see, check this. We boost up that volume there, and then I'm gonna go boost up my volume in my settings. No. Sound settings, recordings, microphone. Let's see. If something happened to the levels. No, levels are up. Let me listen to myself real quick. All right.
Yeah, they'll be like, dude, just totally like I put in the notes specifically, if they don't have Dr. Pepper zero sugar cream soda, then get A&W diet A&W root beer. And then the dude just replied to me and he's like, oh, well, it told me to get a regular Dr. Pepper zero, not, yeah, I don't care what it told you to get. It's not, the app's not the one getting it. I am.
That reminds me, I have to make a complaint with DoorDash because I ordered what did I order? I ordered a chicken, the blackened chicken sandwich from Popeyes. I think it was the other night, and I ordered a sweet tea, and I got Coke. I don't even drink Coke. I'm a Pepsi guy. I don't drink Coca-Cola. I don't like Coca-Cola. It tastes bad. And so I had to be stuck with Coke. And that reminds me, I gotta put that report in with DoorDash so I get my money back.
Sometimes they just, you're supposed to be consulted before they replace something. And sometimes they just take liberty and just assume.
See, that's what I like about Instacart.
I've had it happen on Instacart too.
I've had some instances on Instacart where the replacement was not what I expected. Like I get fresh parsley, fresh basil, and then they bring me back these little plastic containers that's got the smallest amount of basil or parsley in it. Like, you made me spend $5 on this bullshit, and what am I supposed to do with it? It's over in one dish. And not only that, but they picked the worst ones. Like every time I order the fresh basil, because I always get the fresh basil for when I'm making a, a pasta sauce or something, you know. Um, the basil is always brown and wilted. Uh,
Yeah, sometimes it seems like they like intentionally pick. If you get some vegetables or something, they'll just intentionally get the worst looking ones there.
yeah, like I ordered, I wanted some blueberries. They said there weren't no blueberries, so they went to go get me some blackberries. For the blackberries they got me were the worst blackberries I've ever had in my life. They were still red even after I left them out to ripen for a few days. They were still so bitter and tart. These are the worst blackberries I've ever had. And I grew up, you know, we grew up in Social, but where I grew up, you know, I walk outside and pick blackberries fresh off the vine, and they are so sweet. And to have to spend $6 on that sour crap, I was pissed off. I sent the complaint in and got my money back on that too. But is my volume, is it better now?
Yeah.
All right, let me turn this listen thing off because I don't want to hear myself speak any more than I have to.
Boost.
Oh, see, I had the boost thing up on this microphone, but when I turn the boost on, it starts to make that staticky noise. So I got the boost on 12 instead of on 24.
No, I was talking about this filter is called Boost.
Oh yeah, that's the filter that I use. The boost, to make you look a little bit better. But you know,
Oh, somebody out there. That would be the Uber Eats guy. I always put it on there. Don't ring the doorbell. Don't knock. Just leave it and leave it outside and go.
I always told them
Sometimes they'll still
I always told them to
knock.
hand it to me, and they just leave it on my on the ground outside my door and don't even knock.
Well, yeah, but it's a little bit different in your instance because you're an apartment complex. I don't have to worry about anybody coming to grab it here.
Oh,
So I just would rather have them leave it and then just go because
even if, you know, like I got a chair sitting outside my door. If you're gonna leave it, put it in the damn chair, not on the fucking ground. Now it pisses me off. But I specifically leave it a note, hand it to me, and they leave it outside. I had one guy come and deliver. I didn't even know he had came and delivered because there was no door knock. My dog didn't bark. There was no knock on the door. My food was sitting outside for an hour.
all right, the dude listened. He's leaving.
So take care of your business.
You know, something I never do. I don't ever leave a tip right off the bat. If I tip them, it's after.
That's usually what I do, or I'll give them a tip when they come to the door if I have cash. 'Cause I don't like tipping, and then I find out that I got poor quality service when I go through my
You got
receipts.
shafted.
Exactly. Like, I'm not going to tip you, and then I get my food. Like, I tipped this lady on Instacart because like, oh, if you leave a tip, they'll pick your stuff up faster. I leave a tip, and then she comes over here and she brings me a bag of lemons that have mold on them. The
Exactly.
lemons were white.
You know,
And she took my chicken thighs.
yeah, I don't tip all the time anyway because it's just like, God, it's expensive enough to get something delivered.
It is like, you know, I pay for the membership with Instacart. And even paying with the membership, like, you don't really get anything out of paying with the membership because once you pay with the membership, I feel like they just increase the cost of the service charge. Because I was looking at my latest bill. I bought some groceries from Instacart. I bought some groceries from Rouse's. It was $193, about 200 and something dollars that I had to spend. And I'm supposed to get free delivery. Well, the delivery charge, they went down the delivery charge to $3.49. Well, before the delivery charge was $7.99, but now that I have the membership, I have delivery charge for free. But now the service charge is $7 and something. So I'm like, I'm not really saving any money having a membership because the service charge is now over $7.
No, they're robbing you. You know what? I got this one time specifically. I remember there was like a promo going on, and I ordered something from Wendy, or I didn't end up actually ordering, but I messaged them and complained about it. I was like, it's like a $35 minimum order.
Yeah, you have to
Like
do
a
that
certain just
in order to get it delivered. That's to be $35 minimum.
well, no, I'm talking about they were maybe it wasn't it. I'm pretty sure it was Instacart.
Yeah, it
Anyway,
was
it's
Instacart.
it's not important what the minimum order price was. I think it was 35. And so I got $35 worth of stuff. Then I put the promo in. And guess what the price came out to be even after I put the promo in? 35 freaking dollars. I was just like, dude, really?
Exactly. Like I put my promo in, and they're supposed to give me, $20 off, but I'm still spending the same amount of money as before I put the promo code in.
Yeah, they'll find a
Because
way.
because the service charges are so fucking high, and then the delivery fee is so high, and then I'm paying for their membership, and it's still high. But it's convenient for me because I don't have to leave the house. I don't have a car, so I don't have to worry about, trying to get somebody to take me to go get groceries. But God, 36 items, $200. I don't even have anything really to show for it. I bought what
Oh man.
4 or 5 packs of meat, and a couple of canned goods, and I'm at 100 and I know 190 something dollars, $200 for groceries, and all that's going
We
to be
have
covered in a little
we've got
while.
some breaking news, sir. Just came out.
Breaking news. What is it? Who's
Yes,
dead? Who
Donald Trump
died?
will be reinstated on Twitter.
Oh, Elon Musk is going to reinstate Donald Trump.
Yes, he just announced that he's being reinstated.
That gets back to what I was going to talk about at the beginning. So obviously Donald Trump is going to be using Truth Social a lot. It's his own platform, but in addition to that, he just announced he's going to be running for president for 2024. We knew this was going to happen. We were just trying to wait to see what the timing was, politically, what the best timing was. And so I got 2 questions and I want to get your opinion on. Number one, what did you, if you watch the speech, what do you think of Donald Trump's message and speech? What do you think his areas of improvement are, and what do you think his worst points were? And then number 2 for the question is, we have a brand new investigation into Donald Trump, another special counsel into Donald Trump. What do you think that's going to be about, and how do you think it shows the fear that the Democrats have of Donald Trump 2024?
I don't think it's a new investigation. I think they're just pretending like it is. Like I told you what I thought, why he came. I thought he came out and announced a new, whatever. I mean, they finally came out and said, oh, it turns out, this classified stuff he had at Mar-a-Lago, it was just nothing. But then he came out and announced that, I think for the sole reason because the Republicans, Jim Jordan and that other guy, announced the investigation of Hunter Biden's laptop. And he explicitly stated twice, at least 2 times, that this is an investigation of Joe Biden. So he had to come out and say something to detract from the Biden investigation. I don't really have any complaints about the speech the other night. I just wish he would be like that more often.
I have 2.
But also chill out on that. The only thing that he said that I was just like, okay, that's kind of,
Don't tell me.
I know what he meant.
It's going to be the same thing that Officer Tatum said.
the same thing that everybody has said. That's like, okay, we're going to copy China now. Like he called for the death penalty for drug dealers, and he didn't actually specify which ones. He
Yeah,
didn't say the cartels. He didn't say like the high level. He said drug dealers. And to me, that's a general statement. You're talking about I would be executed or I would have been executed. Like that's heinous. That's draconian. I know that's not what he really meant, but you know, I can't assume that everybody's going to understand what he meant.
well, I mean that's understandable. That's one of the fears that some people have. But however, I feel that that harsher rhetoric is necessary in a time where we have the utmost destruction of faith in our legal system. People are doing things, and there's like virtually zero uh what's the word I'm looking for? Virtually zero legal ramifications where they can just do whatever the hell
I
they
get
want
that,
to.
but you know what I mean? Like
I get what you're
I can
saying,
overlook that, but like
that it seems a
he
bit
shouldn't have
harsh.
gone that far.
It seems a bit harsh and generalistic. However, for somebody like me, I think that you have to lay the hammer down, lay it down hard, and um, really showcase a display or make an example out of something to get people to get the message across that hey, you're killing people, and we're going to have to start treating it as such. Though that's not one of the points that I really focused on. The main thing that I was focusing on with his speech is the length of it. I think it needed to be shorter. I think everybody thinks it needed to be shorter. Um, the big issue that I have with his speech is he's not going to win in 2024 if he continues to push Republicans to go and vote on election day. He needs to start playing the system the way the Democrats are. Donald Trump, the reason why people loved him the first time around was because they tried to trick him up on some questions to make him seem like he was corrupt by asking him all these questions. He just said he was smart enough to use the system as it was intended to be used, you know. So why, talk about, well, we got to get I agree we need voter ID laws. I agree we need one day for elections, but that's not where we are right now. You got
Well,
certain states
look,
that
I
mail
don't
that.
think that you look.
Let me
Obviously,
finish.
that's not where we are right now. But
Well, let me
I know
finish
what
here.
you're going to say. I know what you're about to say.
We have
I'm
certain states that you have 2 months of voting. They mail you your ballots in. What Donald Trump needs to do, and what the Republican Party as a whole needs to do, is they need to come up with an early voting strategy, because that's the only way they're going to be able to win after post COVID elections. They have to come up with what they're going to do about this early voting thing, because the fact of the matter is you cannot expect as many Republicans to come out and vote on election day and be able to vote successfully as Democrats who are voting for 2.5 months. It's just not possible. So they need to come up with a
I
strategy.
think that your fears in regards to that are he said that as something that needs to happen once he gets reelected. But obviously, he's aware that it's a problem, and he's aware that that's why Republicans are losing, or else he wouldn't have said anything about it. What he proposed is great, but the reform has to come once the victory's been won. And that means, obviously, like what you said, the Republicans, they need to take full advantage of the way the system is set up now and get all these, go door to door, get these mass mail outs and all that. You have to do what the Democrats are
Yeah,
doing, or else it's over
ballot
with.
harvest, do all of that crap, because
Yes, where
otherwise
it's
it's
legal,
over.
ballot harvesting, everything, because the only way to change the laws is to use them as they are right now, or else they'll never win.
Exactly. Um, Other than that, I think it was overall very, very good. I still think he's the way the party needs to go. I think DeSantis would lose horribly in a primary against Donald Trump. And I honestly, I think that Trump is the only one that can run in 2024 that can actually make waves. I
I'm
don't
really
see
hoping,
anybody else.
I was hoping that there would be like some kind of primary. I mean, not necessarily, I mean, on either side, because I'm really starting to feel like it's just going to be Trump v. Biden as a rematch. And we're not going to have a real primary season. And I just enjoy primary seasons.
Well, I
That's all
enjoy
I'm.
primary season because I like to see the debates. I want these candidates to be forced to show their ideas to the public. And I think, this isn't going to happen unless Trump gets in office. But I think the election committees need to be forced to make debates happen. You know, Joe Biden and Donald Trump, what they had three debates or two debates.
I don't know. I think they had two. I think one of them got canceled.
Kamala Harris and Pence had one debate, and
Well,
that was,
usually there's only one vice presidential debate anyway.
you know, uh, these things need to then the debates need to happen. I think they need to have at least one debate every month up until election day.
Well, you can't force the candidates to agree to it. I think more debates would be better, but it's also the debates can be a strategic weapon as well in an election season. And they can also pose a great risk, like especially during the primaries when everybody debates, mostly a lot of people get picked off from those debates. Like their poll numbers collapse after one or two, or one bad performance is enough during the primaries to knock you out.
Yeah, but what we saw with Biden, with Fetterman, with Katie Hobbs, which is still debatable because she was governing her own election. We don't want to talk about but the fact that several Democrats in this recent election didn't even campaign, didn't even debate, didn't come out in public to do anything, and were still able to pull in votes, including a dead guy who got
Well, yeah,
80%
that's
of the
because
vote.
I bet a lot of people didn't even know he was dead, honestly. And they don't debate anymore because they know they don't have to because of the way they've changed the rules. They
He
know they're
was
going to win.
he was dead for a month and a half, and he still won by 80%.
Well, maybe that should tell you something. Maybe they'd rather have nobody.
And the problem is Republicans. The Republicans are going to fail ridiculously if they continue this infighting that's happening in the party right now. I mean, obviously, we want to get rid of McCarthy. We want to get rid of Mitch McConnell. We want to get rid of all those people. Hey, dog, stop that. We want to get rid of all of these crony establishment types. But the infighting is going to ensure that they never have a victory. And you're not a Republican, I'm not a Republican, but they're the best choice or chance we
Yeah,
have at getting this
the other
country back.
night I was telling my grandma, I wish I wasn't forced to be partisan. And I'm forced to be partisan, loosely speaking, because the Democrats, to me, cannot produce somebody worthy of being voted for. So I have to, it's like I have to be Republican by default. But if they weren't so crazy, I wouldn't have to be so anti-Democrat. Like just even if there's one good Democrat, you have to question why they're even a Democrat. You had somebody like um what's her name?
Tulsi Gabbard.
Uh, yeah, you
Or
had somebody like Tulsi Gabbard who I thought was pretty good as a Democrat, and again,
I
she left the party.
I thought John
So
Donnelly had a when I watched the Democratic primaries in 2020, I thought Donnelly was pretty good. But the Democrats didn't want him, so he got picked off. And the Democrat Party, we're getting called Nazis left and right. I got called I'm in the debate group, and I've decided I'm not arguing with people anymore. I say my point, and then I move on, for the sake of the business. I can't get banned anymore.
Well,
But
it should also be because it's a recognition. It's completely useless to do that.
but so I got called a black member of the right wing, meaning not right wing, the right wing. I'm literally a black Hitler. I got called that by a white guy who's a Democrat, who's and I said to him, I said that the irony is that I'm being called a Nazi by the literal party of the Nazis. If you go by history, the Nazis were socialist, and your part in the Democrat Party are
Not really. I
socialist.
mean, the Nazis, they call themselves the National Socialist Party, but they actually hated real socialists. So the Nazis were really fascists, and people like to see them as like different things, but you know what? It's really not that different.
Oh, that was the reason why. Uh,
I
prior to Hitler, Ferdinand, and who was the one that was in charge before Hitler in World War I, and I can't remember, but the reason why
Hindenburg?
the reason why they had such a close relationship with Italy at the time was because their politics were so similar. But
Hindenburg really, he dropped the ball. He recognized that Hitler was bad, and he didn't even like Hitler, but he still didn't do anything about
it goes to show a lot of things that happens in politics like that.
it.
But speaking on,
uh, Probably because nobody thought that something like that could really happen, and that's what they get for it.
just like nobody thought that John Fetterman could be elected to Congress, but or
Well,
that we
I thought he could. I thought he very well could be,
or that we'd have
because I heard,
or that we'd have a sitting
well,
dead
okay,
guy on
like
Congress.
change it up, like switch the situation up. Imagine that John Fetterman was fine, or not even Dr. Oz, just any two candidates, and there was a Republican who had principles, but he had a stroke and he was having trouble, and there was a Democrat who was fine. With you wouldn't then go and vote for the Democrat.
No, I probably abstain my vote.
Uh, if the situation was like that, dire enough, and we really needed to, get the Senate away from these people, I would definitely vote for a Republican who had a stroke
Well, you
over.
see, that's where the Republicans failed miserably, because Republicans' character and quality and content matters too much to Republican voters. That's the reason why you saw so many of these Republicans fail, was because there's a lot of split ballots. People go and turn out presidential election records for the governor's race, but then senators and House members would hang on by a hair, or flat out lose their race to the Democrats and the House and in the Senate levels, because character matters too much to Republican candidates. It's a shame that we don't
It should
have
matter.
that we don't have
They're
the
held
no,
to a higher standard.
what I'm saying is, it's a shame that we don't have the hive mind mentality of the Democrats, because we will win overwhelmingly. But it's good for us that character matters. However, character is causing us to lose, because we're not getting behind a supportive message to who we need to be backing.
I don't think that that's the problem. I don't think that's the fundamental issue.
Well, when you take a look at the character of some of some of the candidates, for example, Herschel Walker, he's guy whose character is all over the place. But then you also have to look at the leadership within the Republican Party, which also
Okay, I
is
got you. I
which is
got you.
also of poor character, like Mitch McConnell.
I got you. I understand what you're saying now.
Yeah,
I misinterpreted what you were saying.
yeah.
I thought what you were saying was the fact that Republicans care about character is the problem.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That
Okay, that's definitely not something I would
I'm saying that the reason why they lose so hard, even though we had the majority, the popular vote, we still didn't get the Senate. We lost the Senate, actually. It's not even tied anymore. And if Herschel Walker doesn't win his race, it's going to be it's going to be clearly in the favor of the Democrats.
If he wins, it will be a tie,
If he wins, it will be a tie. But I don't know.
which is still not a majority, obviously.
And then, we barely got the House of Representatives. A win is a win, but we barely got the House of Representatives. When the Republicans had everything to gain in this, and despite the fact that they got the popular vote, and still their margin for victory is so very slim. But but it's because, like I said, character matters a lot, and Republicans vote based off of that and based off of policy issue a lot more than Democrats do. Democrats are down ballot Democrat. If you're a Democrat, they're going to vote for you. It doesn't matter if you're good or not, you're going to get voted in. Republicans are much different in that regard. And then you take a look at what people like Mitch McConnell, who's taking the money and giving it to a Republican race in Alaska between two Republican candidates, and not giving any of that money to Arizona or Georgia or Oz or any of these other races that were very, very close that could have turned into the Republicans' favor, because the establishment is against their own base. So the Republicans have a lot of work to do in that regard. And that's why I say character does matter a lot for Republicans. And only in the regard that it harms their chances of victory is it a bad thing. But given that Donald Trump is going to be back on is going to be back in the political field running for president, what are the chances that you think he's going to start using Twitter again?
I don't know. I mean, he might, but it won't be like it was. I think he'll stick to Truth Social mostly.
I think he'll stick to Truth Social mostly too. However, I do think that he's going to have to start using Twitter.
Well, you know what? Honestly, he could use both of them equally.
But Facebook still has him suspended, though.
Well, I'm not talking about Facebook, Truth Social and Twitter.
I know that. I'm just saying Facebook still hasn't suspended, so that's going to be kind of interesting, because they're all, they're supposed to try to keep it fair and balanced for political candidates, but he's still suspended on Facebook, and so that's going to make it very interesting, because it's going to limit his ability to get his message out.
I don't think Facebook is going to affect it at all, because political candidates never post on, that Twitter is where politicians go to. Truth Social is just like, if there was I don't know, there might be a way to do this, but everything that he posts gets, when it goes out to both apps. So it appears on Twitter and on Truth Social. I don't know if, maybe
very
something
similar,
like that.
Very similar to what we do here. Yeah, every time I make a video here, it goes out to 5 other different places. So I think they have things for that, like Linktree. I think that's one of them, Linktree or something. I don't know what Linktree is. I could be getting it all wrong, but I think it's similar to that.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what he does.
What are the chances that you think Joe Biden's actually going to run in 2024?
I don't know. I think he thinks he is going to run, but I don't think the Democrats want him to, and they're just waiting to break the news to him until,
Then here's a better,
I don't know when, but
here's a harder question for you. If Joe Biden doesn't run, who can the Democrats run?
they don't have really anybody good. So whoever they run is going to be somebody who's like just a subpar candidate. They have no good choices. They'll honestly, the best thing they could do is try to like draft Michelle Obama or somebody, like force him to do. I don't think she would, but you know,
They just forced an opinion out of her, I think a couple of days ago, where she says she's not doing it.
everybody and she refused to endorse Biden. She was just like, we'll have to wait and see.
Yes.
She didn't want to say it. Um, but everybody else I can think of who the Democrats could possibly get are extremely unpopular.
Do you think that the left's overwhelming raw hatred for Donald Trump will impact the election if it's anybody other than Biden? Do you think that the hatred of Donald Trump will be enough for any candidate to skirt across for the Democrats?
Wait, what?
And I said, do you think that just the hatred for Donald Trump, do you think that's going to be enough to carry any candidate that the Democrats push in 2024?
I don't think honestly, I don't think enough people really hate Trump that much. You know, the only people that we see, the people that really hate Trump, you know, they are basically they're in the media, most of them. Most regular people probably really don't care one way or the other. What a lot of people care about is, you know, what gas costs, like can they afford food? And they'll remember that they could only a few short years ago. And all of a sudden now things are getting more difficult. And what people are obviously what they do is they look to the guy in charge and be like, what's going on, bro? Why are you, what are you doing? Why are you doing?
You
Why are
know,
you doing all this to us?
that's actually one of the reasons why I think that we're actually not going to see any real debates in 2024. Because if Trump and Biden have to go head to head, the last thing Biden wants to do is give Trump the ability to draw a comparison between him and Biden on a stage with them both there having to defend policy.
Yeah, that would be because in 2020 he really didn't have it. Obviously Biden wasn't president. He didn't have a record to show as a president, as the one person in charge of the executive branch. And he could say all he wanted to about his career as a senator, but he's in that capacity. He's just one guy in a body of 100 senators. So he's harder to single out. But in this case, the contrast, anybody who's paying attention, it's obvious.
Yeah, it would be a heavy blow to Joe Biden. And actually, according to most of the polls right now, but polling data is so out of whack. It's almost, how the polls used to oversample and undersample Republicans, oversample Democrats. Now, if we're going to take the polls from this recent election seriously, then the polls are now oversampling Republicans and undersampling Democrats. And so all of the polls are showing that Biden will lose handedly to Donald Trump in a 2024 election if it was held today. And I don't know how well we can uh we can trust the polls on any of this.
Well, the polls this midterm were actually pretty spot on. The generic congressional uh, actually underestimated Republicans because you have to look at the popular vote overall, and that's what the generic congressional ballot is. They did win by like 5%, and the average of RCP was 2.3%. But if you look at individual races, usually they are within the margin of error um, on the close ones. So,
I think
polls are
that
not really meant to be like they are
I,
what they are. They're
I
just
think it's
speculation.
also I think it's also, with the way the election laws have changed recently, is the pollsters have to play a different game of keep up with this, because the clearly the mail-in ballots and the early voting system has left things a little bit of a stray for the pollsters, so it makes them a little bit more difficult for them to be able to calculate things.
Yeah.
Um, but undeniably, I think it would be uh a disaster for Joe Biden to go one-on-one in a debate with Donald Trump.
I think, man, it's just now that so many people were taken off guard by the 2020 election because people really didn't know what to expect now that the rules had changed due to COVID. And that's really the main reason for what happened.
That's why I said too. The only reason why Donald Trump lost in 2020 is because the rules were changed, and we now know that many of those changes were unconstitutional. The Supreme Court decided to make that decision after the election instead of making that decision before the election, like they should have. Uh, but we now know that most of those rules were unconstitutional, and those changes significantly impacted the election. But now, when we're going to see what's this, the 8th year of investigations into Donald Trump and still nothing, and then we're going to get investigations into Hunter Biden. Now, this is something that I think the Republicans are doing that I think it's going to harm them, because we want them to investigate. Or right, we want them to do that. We want them to investigate Hunter Biden, Joe Biden. But that's not what we were elected them to do. We wanted them to come up with solutions to do inflation, to try to get things done. And before they even officially secured the House, which was just 2 days ago, before they even officially secured the House, they're already talking about launching investigations as their top priority. That's poor.
That's all they really
politics.
can do.
I mean,
They
I
don't have
understand.
all they have is the House. They can't really do anything else.
I
Nobody
understand
can.
that, but they can draft some bills. They can try to undo the mitigated disasters of some of the bills that Joe Biden has passed, because
How?
they can do that. You want to know how? If
How?
they
Yeah.
if the Republicans manage to squeeze a victory in Georgia and it gets a tie, and let's say that what's his name, the Democrat from Virginia, uh Joe Manchin. Let's say Joe Manchin is
West
still,
Virginia.
yeah, West Virginia. Let's say he's still teetering towards the moderate side, and they're able to send some bills like that would undo some of the big spending up to Biden. Biden vetoes it. It goes back down to the House. The House has to vote on it again, make some arrangements, send it back up to Biden. If he vetoes it again, all they have to do is have a simple majority vote to pass it anyway.
That's after 2 vetoes.
After two vetoes. After two
So
vetoes,
what happened to the 2/3 majority?
I think that's only in the Senate. I thought the rules changed in the House where it's simple majority in the House. The Senate has to get to the 2/3.
Well, it has to pass the Senate too. It has to pass both of them again, right?
Yeah, it would. But
I'm pretty sure that they can't do that.
According to Mark Levin, it's possible that they could do that, but that's in 2024, unfortunately. Mark Levin says that the polling data was always off on there being a red wave in this election, because most of the seats that the Republicans can actually flip aren't even on the table in this recent election. The one in 2024 is the one where they're going to be all on, where everything's going to be really up for grabs, and that's the one that needs to be watched for the actual red wave. According to Mark,
it's got to be a 2/3 majority in both houses override.
I thought they had changed it in the House, but those are some ways if they can manage to pick up some more seats in the next election cycle. But they have to force Joe Biden's hand. You know, they have to force the Democrats' hand. Actually put forth some policies, pass it through the House, and send it to the Senate and force them to vote on it and be held accountable.
I mean, they can do that, but it's not going to go anywhere. All they can do, they take over the committees. All they can really do is these investigations and make some of this stuff public knowledge. Obviously, no convictions are going to come from it, at least not right now. So
that's true. I mean, what the Justice Department is not going to help the Republicans.
But they still need to, the information still needs to be out there so that two years from now, there actually can be some indictments.
I agree.
And whoever Trump gets to be the attorney general, it can't be one of these establishment shills that's crazy and not crazy, but is scared to do anything.
He needs to pick Matthew Whitaker for attorney general. That's who needs to be attorney general under Trump's next term. Matthew Whitaker.
I don't know who that is.
He was the acting attorney general after Jeff Sessions got canned, and before Bill Barr became the attorney general. Matt Whitaker was amazing. He was a beast. This guy put fear in the hearts of Congress with it because he didn't have a neck. he was swole. But Whitaker, that's who he needs to pick to be his attorney general. Whitaker. I think that would be perfect. Somebody that's no BS, that's willing to get things done. I think John Ratcliffe should return. I think he served President Trump really nicely at the end of his term as the national security advisor, John Ratcliffe. Obviously, Trump doesn't need to pick any of these 5-star generals because they are all part of the establishment.
No, hell no. You cannot pick a general. All generals are swamp creatures because they've worked for the government for their whole lives.
Exactly. He can't pick any of those people. Really, as I've said before, because he doesn't have to run for office again if he wins, he just needs to go in there and fire everybody. Everybody in leadership positions, he just needs to say, you're fired.
It's not so much the top leaders that are the issue, though. It's a lot of these mid-level bureaucrats who just,
fire them.
That's why he had, what was that, Schedule F, making it possible to fire all these people.
The Democrats have tried to pass into law bills that would prevent the president from being able to fire them because Donald Trump said he was going to fire them if he won in 2020. And so the Democrats have been putting that plan together. They haven't passed it yet, but I would imagine
it's over with.
That they're going to try to push that through before January when the new House gets sworn in, to try to push that through and to stop Donald Trump from being able to fire these bureaucrats.
I don't think that's going to happen, but even if it does, 2024 is a more favorable year, congressionally speaking, to the Republicans. Let's say, obviously, I'm expecting them to hold the House and take the Senate easily,
but
they can get rid of any of that.
Anything could happen within that time period, so we have to play like we're losing, which we are losing the culture war, but we're finally getting ready to rebound. But we have to constantly play like we're losing and show up and overperform until the last second. We have to be there at all times. I'm not.
We have been. I say we, but have been losing the culture on the cultural front since the culture war started. But we're actually starting to win some battles and turn the tide a little bit.
That's what I said.
But we're still losing the war.
Yeah, we're having a rebound. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Jay's been raging since the election night.
And I just do some of the stuff that Jay posts. I'm just like, dude, you seem very he doesn't seem very open to anyone else's, like he's
not. And I told
he
him,
seems like a fanatical, like really dangerously.
I told you he's a Christian extremist. He's a zealot.
But that's not okay. That's not a good thing to be.
And I told him that too. I told him, I said, look, I understand. I agree with you. I don't like the gay supremacy. I don't like all of this stuff moving in on us. But here's the facts. The facts are we are not a Christian state. We were based off of Christian principles, but we have a democracy, or actually a republic here, and we vote on these things. And what you need to understand and recognize is gay marriage, that's dead, done. Don't make it an issue ever again, or you're going to lose every single time. Abortion, it's done, dead. It's
losing issues. Losing issues.
Don't talk about those ever again.
exactly. And if any Republican comes out against gay marriage
Drop their
and
asses
with a
immediately.
total ban on abortion, well, it's not a popular thing. Most of the country is,
Yeah, I mean
past that.
that's why we've been covering this for a while, and I said as soon as Lindsey Graham came out and says he's going to ban abortion all over the country, I'm like, Lindsey is actively sabotaging Republican chances of winning.
Yeah. The fact of the matter is the majority of the country wants abortion with restrictions, reasonable restrictions, but not a
Exactly.
complete ban.
And not only that, it doesn't look. If I you know what, I got to say this. I don't know if Jay's watching, but if he is watching, if you want a Christian state, get your shit and move to a different country with a more favorable dictatorship to what you want. But that's not going to be America, and it never
There's
will
not
be.
any, why? Because every country that in the Western tradition that is founded on Christian principles is not a theocracy. They're usually free. If you want a state that's ethnocentric, you got to go to the Muslim world. You're not going to
Exactly.
find it in the Christian world.
And the fact is, sure, has the Christians, have they been losing battles recently? Yes, a hell of a lot. But we have had some victories. We and it's hard to see a lot of the crap that's going on in our Christian country being destroyed, everything that we believe in being, totally uh uprooted. But the facts are is if you want to change those things, you have to become a part of the system and change it from within. You can't preach from a pulpit and try to change things from the outside. You have to reserve your thoughts on your religion until you get in office. And once you're in office, you can start writing legislation, trying to get support of people and push these bills through that you may have written just solely based off of religion, which I would hope that you wouldn't. But if that's your prerogative, you got to get in office before you can push any of that type of stuff.
Yeah, and I definitely, we should strive to be moral, but I also think that you push trying to. I think religion is a deeply personal thing, and it's not something that you should be forcing on anybody, because if it's not real, then if it's forced.
Exactly. I tell Jay this all the time. You know, is the Bible always tells us that it's better to give you honey than it is to give you vinegar. Like
You
you
win
you
people
can't
over by
you cannot
example.
you cannot try to forcefully shove Christianity down somebody's throat when they don't want it. All you're gonna do is it's basically it's like the rebel child. His mother and father tell him no all the time, tell him he can't do this. They don't tell him why. They just say no, no, no. And then he goes off when he gets a little bit older and starts to rebel. And he goes off and starts to do everything that his parents told him he couldn't do just because they told him he can't do it.
All you have to really do is simply state your case to him this way. Okay, Christianity ultimately, what is the goal of a Christian? To become more Christ-like, and use Christ as a model for yourself. Try to become as much like him as possible. When did Jesus ever force himself on anybody?
Exactly. And that's why I tell him all the time. I said, how can you claim to be a Christian when you're trying to force yourself on other people? That's the most unchrist-like thing that you can do. He's
Anyway,
he did not come down here and say that I want you to be forced to love me. He's what he did say is that he'll turn stones into souls before he let the devil have more followers in him. But he said that he wants you to come to him as you are, come to him as little children. That's your choice, it's your decision. There's no force involved. It wouldn't be freedom of will if you had to be forced to do it. That's the good thing about America and in many respects is that nobody forces. I mean, sure, the government forces some things, but nobody's forcing the government to do those types of things. We're voting for it. And unfortunately, we've been on the losing side of a lot of those votes.
You know, the interesting thing about the America is a Christian nation debate is that both sides are actually right. Because, you know, people on the left typically say America was never a Christian nation at all. And that's true, only in the most literal sense. It's true because we don't have a state religion like many of the European, like all the European states, the Catholic Church, the Church of England, they were part of the government. And that's not the case here. But that's because we actually were founded on true Christian principles, not as a Christian nation, but as a nation influenced heavily by Christianity.
Yes, exactly. And I try to make sure that that people understand that. But and I'm saying this right now to other people that are like Jay. It's harmful to the movement. It's harmful to the message that we're trying to get across. It's harmful to the chances of us taking this country back and actually instilling it with some Christian morality, for you to constantly push this zealotism on the entire country. This is the reason why Mike Pence is never going to become a president. And I like Mike Pence. I think he's a likable person, but Mike Pence has a person. He he has the personality of a boiled egg, and Mike Pence is the last thing that this country, especially the young people, with as frivolous of their beliefs and their religion as they are, Mike Pence is the last thing that young people are going to accept in this country. And regardless of whether we want to face that reality or not, young people or people within our age range are the largest voting demographic that's going to be coming up in 2024. Overwhelmingly. And we know that the Democrats have organized for the last several decades ways to indoctrinate and liberate, and I say that with quotations, to liberate these young people, which have made them less moral, less Christian, and less believers in faith. And so, if you want to win those people back, you have to do it in a different way. We're in a new age, and Christianity has to adapt, or it's going to die in this country.
Thank you for saying that. That's something that does not get said enough. You can't keep doing things the same old way. But, you have to be anchored in tradition, but willing to sail wherever the wind blows.
Yes, I believe in keeping tradition alive. I love old school Christian tradition, but the facts are, is sometimes that stuff is going to kill your church. It's going to kill your faith. COVID taught us that. If there's one good thing that COVID has ever done for us, it showed us how quickly a church can die when the people get separated. When people are shown that they don't have to show up to the church, how quickly that church can die, because nobody's paying tithes, nobody's paying offering, nobody's paying benevolent offering, nobody's going there to clean, nobody's coming in. The attendance roster goes down, fellowship is down, but we did learn of ways to fix that. We got Zoom, we have all these other ways to reach out to one another and still continue to keep church tradition alive without actually having to be physically present in the church. The attention spans of people, thanks to smartphones and other digital devices, are so short. Church now, when I was younger, church was an 8-hour event. We get there Sunday morning at 9:30, and we get out at 3 o'clock, and sometimes 4 o'clock if it's on a good day. You can't do that now. At most, you get 45 minutes. People's attention spans are too short for that. Technology has been a massive hindrance to social communication skills for young people, particularly. They don't like that type of stuff. They don't like to sit down and listen to somebody speak for 4 or 5 hours. They don't like that. They can go to a concert and do that, but concerts have gotten shorter. This isn't like a Michael Jackson concert that's 3 hours long and it's full of performance. Since you get a concert, it's an hour and it's over. People are gone. They're going back home. It's done. This is a new world, and tradition is great. I love it. But at some point, you have to know when tradition is becoming an actual anchor and keeping you from moving forward. And
Sometimes tradition can um almost behave as a black hole that keeps you in the past, but it's still a good blueprint.
yeah, it absorbs everything. And I want to be able to see things get better, but we have to be able to get these things the right way. And if they don't get it the right way, oh, we're never going to be able to succeed again. We just aren't going to be able to do it. I want you to speak a little bit about your more thoughts, and I got to go check see who's at my door.
Man, my thoughts. Well, Joe Biden, Mr. Joseph Robinette Jr. himself, has just turned the big 80. It's an accomplishment. And he just keeps breaking his own record for oldest president in history. He set the last record, and then he just broke it. It's like he just won't stop getting older. Dude. And his response when questioned about whether or not he would run, because of course he's 80, he just turned 80 now. That means that in 2024 he'd be 82.
Who, Biden?
And then he would be 86 by the end of his second term. So, he keeps saying, whatever. He keeps saying that he's going to run. He seems convinced that he is, but I think he's the only one who thinks that. Nobody else thinks that. Nobody in his party wants him to run.
Nobody.
Honestly, I really hope he does.
But I don't see. It's the same thing I said about Trump running. Until DeSantis became the rising star, I didn't see anybody in the Republican Party that could run other than Trump. Now with the Democrats, other than Biden, if they can't convince Michelle Obama to get in there, what, Hillary's going to come back?
Dude, I don't even see. She was asked the other day, and she said no, she's not running for president ever again. But she could be lying.
She's coming.
But dude, like we got to stop electing these old people. Like 60, 70, whatever, but not like 80.
That's what I hate to keep going back to this, but that's what Mr. Boynton kept on telling us is, he's gonna be dead soon. I mean, I'm not Mr. Boynton, but hopefully not. But he's telling us that his generation, they're old, they're going away. It's up to us, but most of us in our age bracket, we aren't getting involved. And the ones that are getting involved are the nutcases. And now take a look at the Democrats right now. Pelosi's not going to run for speaker anymore. And so now everything's turning to Hakeem Jeffries, who I think will be worse than Pelosi.
Perhaps.
And he's just going to affirmative action himself and play the race card every single time he doesn't get his way. I could already see it. I could already see it. It's
really,
just
it's completely, to me, I don't pay any attention whatsoever to who the Democrats pick. Like, I really don't care who they pick, because it's not like I'm not going to care about, like, I'm not going to like whoever they pick anyway. So they might as well just pick the worst one they can. It's going to make no difference to me. I
Yeah,
mean,
you're
Nancy
right.
Pelosi, she was horrible.
She
It's not
was
like they're
horrible.
suddenly going to appoint somebody great after that. You know,
It's just like what we and the sad thing is how pathetic and miserable this makes black people look. And I hate to make this a racial thing, but think of it. Nancy Pelosi was bad, but for a Democrat, she did her job of keeping the party together for 20 years. But then take a look at Joe Biden, press secretary Jen Psaki. She was bad, but she did her job and she did it oh, okay for what
she did
for
as good as anybody in that position with under that president could have been expected.
exactly. That's
She
what I'm getting
really
at.
believed it too.
But then look at Karine Jean-Pierre, the current press secretary. Affirmative action because she's black and gay, and she is the worst press secretary that we have ever seen in the history of this country, televised. I think that goes without saying. And then now we're going to look at Hakeem Jeffries come in and try to fill in Nancy Pelosi's shoes. And Hakeem Jeffries is a clown in himself. And he's just going to get affirmative action just because he's black.
I don't think that, like, okay, maybe if they were picked not based on merit, but based on the color of their skin, I, you know, I don't think that, I don't look at that and think, wow, black people suck. She sucks, so the rest of them must suck too. Any more than I think Nancy
No, I
Pelosi reflects badly on white people.
I don't say
It's
that. I don't say that. I say it's because these are the role models that black people have to look forward to. Every person in Congress that is black, which is except for Tim Scott, and even Tim Scott is a little iffy. They are all horribly stupid. They are all
well,
horrible representations of black people in America, and that's what
nobody
we
should
have
be
to look
looking at
forward to.
politicians as role models anyway.
What we had that fat chick, Izzy or Lizzie, whatever the hell her name is.
Lizzo,
Yeah, is disgusto. Uh,
yeah, for real.
half naked, jiggling with James Madison's flute.
This is a disgusting creature, man.
It was just dreadful. Give me a second.
Yeah, that was terrible. It did look bad, but it made her look bad. Not black people in general. Just I already thought pretty low of her, and that just you know, I can't say it really changed much because I think she's awful anyway. I mean, not like she's not a bad singer, but she's a bad person, in my personal opinion.
But then I'm just looking and I'm saying, well, you have her, you got Kanye West, whom he's not the brightest tool in the shed, but at least he's
Man,
trying something else.
he's clearly, you know, Kanye. To me, it's obvious that he's got bipolar disorder, and he's been in a manic state lately because he's just saying stuff with no filter and no tact, and just some of the stuff is just like, dude, you couldn't have said it any differently. You had to say it like that. Well, it seemed pointless.
But then I mean but take a look at just basically every person that black people have as a example or role model to look up to. Oprah Winfrey comes out and says, well, yeah, we got to get behind Stacey Abrams. Stacey Abrams says that the solution to help black people with inflation is to allow them to kill their kids. That's the
I,
only solution
again,
to
I just
inflation.
don't. I don't, the premise to me is it's something that's like artificially been constructed. Like each individual can look up to whoever they want to as a role model, regardless of what color they are, or if they're the same color as them.
which is true, but just going strictly based off of what we have in the media, and we cannot deny that media perceptions uh alter the way people think and perceive certain people, races included. And when you have,
Maybe that's true for the masses, but it's not going to change what
well, for
I see.
individual,
Everybody is. I try to see each person as there is an individual.
for people like you
Obviously,
and I, it's
sometimes
different.
stereotypes are something that nobody can fully get rid of, but I try to be conscious of that and keep in mind that this is an individual and nothing else besides their character and behavior should matter to me or anybody really.
And see, I'm the same way, but I always look at it and I say these people are feeding into the stereotype. And then we look at all of the young folks, they just constantly feed the stereotype. This is what they want. This is what the party wants, what the Democrat Party wants, what the media wants. And so long as they have that, this is the reason why you get a 90% clip of votes that goes directly towards the Democrats from the blacks, is because the media has painted the perception of blacks in the Democrat Party and painted them in such a way that the blacks are for lack of a better phrase, enslaved to the Democrat Party eternally.
Yeah. Ironically, that seems to be the case. It's the one most faithful, loyal voting bloc out of any in the whole country.
Yeah,
The most monolithic.
90%. And in some cases,
Yeah.
I think in this recent election, I think in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia, I think the black women's votes for Fetterman was 98%.
Yeah. And those results, voting results, it's not even a stereotype. It's just a fact. Everybody in Pennsylvania, when they see a black woman, they're going to be like, well, there's an idiot Fetterman voter.
What's the truth?
Yeah. Every time we go to the polls and I see black people voting at the polls, I'm like, oh, they're here to vote for Johnny
Yeah,
because it's a fact.
yeah, like
And I hate thinking that too.
well, look, I had, where I live amongst my people, and so on election day, one of my neighbors downstairs, she says, where's the area for us to go vote at down here? It's my first time voting down here, and she's like, I guess I'm gonna go cast my vote for Johnny Dupree because there aren't no other good Democrats on the ticket, and there's nobody else to vote for. I can't vote for the Republican, so I'm just gonna go throw my vote for Dupree.
But if you ask them why, they can't really give you a good reason why they can't.
No, they can't. No one's ever been able to give me a reason for why they would vote for Dupree or the Democrats.
It's just because their family did that and their family before them did that.
I was asking a guy on Discord today on Todd's show. I join that show every now and again, and I was asking him. I said, "Well, that I believe that DeSantis will lose horribly to Trump," and he starts talking about something about Trump would lose to Joe Biden, and I said, based off of what policy? I said, well, can you please name one good thing that Joe Biden has done that has made our lives better? And we said, well, there's so many. He helped with infrastructure. I said, well, what did he do for infrastructure? Give me one. I can't find one. He says, well, Pittsburgh, the URC in Pittsburgh, they just got some money to make the home to build homes and stuff. I said, well, the URC in Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, that's state run. That's not federal. And that just happened November 11th. So how does that have anything to do with Joe Biden? I said, name this, okay. Continue naming off these things that Biden has done. It's like he got us out of Afghanistan. It's like, oh yeah, that was really good for us. He left $80 billion worth of our equipment over there and cost the lives of hundreds of thousands of people. That was very good. It's like, oh, it was going to be a mess anyway. It's like, oh yeah, but there were better ways to get out of there. And then he just stopped giving me examples. Like this happens every single time I ask any Democrat to give me an example.
You force them to defend an indefensible position, and it's exposing.
Exactly.
It's pretty sad. Realizing that there's people who are actually willing to put their reputation on the line completely to defend an indefensible argument. It's absurd.
Yes, it really is. And it's scary very much though, because this is the majority of the voters in this country. If we go by recent, not we can't include this one, but if we go by the party that typically wins the popular vote, which is the Democrats, that's the majority of the country are like that.
Wait, they don't typically. What are you talking about? They typically win the popular vote.
Democrats typically win the popular vote in federal elections.
Are you talking about presidential elections or Congress?
Yeah. Presidential elections and Congress.
That's only happened like 2 or 3 times in the history of the country. Usually the electoral college vote matches the popular vote. That's not a common thing to happen. It happened with Bush, Gore. It happened with Trump and Hillary, and it only happened like 1 time before that.
I'm just saying that the majority of the country, if we go by what we just saw in 2020, 80 plus million versus 75 or 71 or however many they said it was, the majority of the country, this is the way that they think. It's
at least half the country.
It's a scary thought. It's a scary thought. And what's even scarier than that is the fact that the overwhelming majority of the teachers in our society share these thoughts and are teaching the kids. That's the scariest part about it, is because these kids, they get engineered from a young age, and by the time they get ready to graduate, it's all over. They've already been programmed, and it will take them a lifetime to be decommissioned.
Man, can't believe how stupid, there's really so many stupid people. I think there's way more than I thought there was. I used to think that, the average person is actually stupid. The average, somebody of average intelligence is not that smart. They're very easy to manipulate, intellectually speaking. And I realized that about the time when I realized that if I wanted to, most people, I could just tell them anything and they'll believe it, because I know how to say something in a way that makes it sound like I know what I'm talking about. And it would be so easy for me to convince somebody, almost anybody, of whatever I want them to think. But because that's how stupid they are. They think if you sound like you know what you're talking about, you must be right. Of course, I have no desire to mislead anybody ever, because I actually care. I know that reflects badly on me, but also I care about the direction of civilization and its continued existence. And that's why I would never intentionally mislead anybody. I want to attempt to increase knowledge.
As do I. I mean, our pursuit of knowledge, of we've been talking about recently, is in many ways it seems quite vain because we can never use it all or share it all. And so we write to hopefully leave behind a manual of some kind. And it's just it's just amazing to see how much work we have to do if we really want to make a difference. It's jarring to think that, because we have so much time to make up. Because if let's just assume that the earthquake that the earthquake that happened in Texas a couple of days ago, in Jay's area, or that the supposed sounds of trumpets, which I've actually seen videos of, and they can be explained as not trumpets coming from the sky, but actually people, buildings being bulldozed, the scraping of these things vibrating for a long period of time, or the fact that fires, or that NASA apparently caught a supernova explode in a different quasar somewhere from here. Let's just assume that these are supposed signs of the end times. We have a lot of ground to make up if we wanted to stave that off. If we wanted to show that we were still worthy of having a little bit more time left to enjoy on this planet, we have a lot of ground to cover. And it starts with the education of these young people, because they are so far gone. And I hate to be cliche and use prophecy of the Bible, but you know what it says, that there will become a generation that will not know God. And every generation thinks that the generation after them is the one that does not know God. But I think that our generation is the one that doesn't know. And unfortunately, it's now starting to show in the generation that's coming up after us. But this has been going on ever since Jesus left the earth. People have been saying the same thing over and over and over and over again. We will never know for certain, but if we were to assume,
Or that, dude, that's just part of the pattern of the collapse of civilizations.
exactly, and
It's always a part of it.
if we were to assume the worst imaginable, we have a lot of stuff to work for. And, we've narrowly escaped uh nuclear war, with NATO and Russia, since now they're saying it was the Ukraine anti-missile defense system.
Yeah, but yet Zelensky's still trying to, dude, I think he's a villain.
They're all
I don't-
villains.
But Zelensky is a madman. Even Poland and the rest of NATO had determined that it wasn't Russia. It was actually a Ukrainian missile that it missed its spot or whatever. And Zelensky's still saying he's still trying to escalate. He's like, dude, the dude's really trying to start World War III all on his own.
And then we still have China to worry about. They said that they're going to take Taiwan by Christmas. So if they're serious on their threat, we've got a month to go before that goes off. And we are in a very precarious situation here, where we are on the edge of annihilation of the human race as we know it. And if we're going to rebound after that, if let's say if nuclear war does break out, if we're going to rebound after that, well, as it stands right now, the education is not great enough for the skills necessary to survive for the majority of people in the Western world. If something happens, most of these people are just done.
Obviously. But that would be the case no matter what. If there's some sort of extinction level event, obviously everyone's not going to die immediately. There will be survivors, but then some of the people who survive will die shortly after because of lack of ability to maneuver in the new landscape of the
Well,
earth.
I don't even just mean that. Well, I guess you can use maneuver in this sense, but I mean the gardening, basic irrigation systems. You know,
Oh, I
carving
mean, what I mean by
carving up.
maneuver is just behave, act in general, do what you have to do.
You know, and then what's the Democrats are talking about? Well, we have to import new workers because our birth rate is so low, but they're still pushing abortion as the only solution to solve family issues. Like things like the, their brains aren't functioning and actually putting these things together. The puzzle pieces aren't fitting for these people. And we have to be able to, I think, within the next 50 years, if we want to actually make a significant change, try to get these people to stop putting triangles and circle holes. But speaking of stupidity, what do you think about the outrage over at Twitter headquarters? Elon Musk shutting down the headquarters, Twitter's. They made that little post. I don't know if you've seen it on Facebook where they got the little thing with Elon. They got this little screen running across from the building, saying Elon is a petulant, impulsive, colonizer, or some a whole bunch of stuff because they're upset that Elon Musk said to them, if you want to stay here, you're gonna have to work hardcore.
I don't think anything about it really. I just think I don't care enough about what people say about Twitter and Elon Musk to even pay attention. Like, obviously, they're going to be outraged. Their outrage means nothing to me.
It's not the outrage about Twitter that I want. It's the outrage about uh just think about this. So what 10,000 people are getting their losing their job, and they're getting paid 6 months severance, I think it was, to lose their job because they weren't doing anything. And so they are upset that for the first time in their life they've been asked to do work. That
Yeah, well, whatever. That sucks for them, I guess. Maybe
I
they
mean,
should figure out how to do stuff.
this is the most hilarious thing to me because if, for example, they lose their job, they're still going to get paid for 6 months. The Fed just came out and said that uh the way for them to fight inflation is to tell employers not to give pay raises to their employees. That will stop inflation. So the little administration that's behind trying to improve our economy, improve our sense of living, is telling us that we're making too much money, that no, or that you shouldn't be making any more money. Don't ask don't ask for a raise. Don't give them a raise. Don't give them a bonus for Christmas. Don't give them a bonus for the holidays. Don't offer them any more overtime. Cut their hours because they're spending too much money and it's causing the economy to continue to spiral out of control. So this is the Fed's response. But these 10,000 Twitter employees who are now longer Twitter employees, they're getting paid 6 months. Whereas people like you and I who have to go work now, the Fed's telling our bosses that we don't deserve to have a raise or a bonus in order to fight
Well,
inflation.
that's not going to have any effect on whether when I get a raise or not. It's not going to matter. I'll get a raise regardless.
I just think it's ridiculous that, and again, I guess you can say it's the liberal class of supremacy, liberal supremacy, because it's not white supremacy. I mean, the liberals are the white supremacists. Let's just be real. But the liberal supremacy is the fact that they live in their own little bubble Whereas the rest of us, we have to work hard, grind, and we're actually being affected by all of this. But
It's
these
not an
guys,
ideological thing. That in that case, it's a class thing. They're called the elites for a reason.
yeah,
Because they really do think they're better than the rest of us. They really believe it, and they believe that they're in a position to morally be moral dictators, essentially, because they're virtuous, and we need their insight so they can teach us how to be better people. That's why they have all these re-education classes on unconscious bias and all that, because they know how to behave, they know what to do, and we are just lowly peasants. Part of this is because America has no natural aristocracy, so an artificial one has formed.
yeah, I would say that is true. Celebrities are this aristocracy for America. And unfortunately, the American sheeple idolize these celebrities in this elite class so much that they bow down to their every word, to their every whim, without even doing their own research into anything. And,
Did you see Don Lemon's comment about those idiots who do their own research?
I don't listen to Don Lemon at all. I try not to
I
see
didn't
him.
hear it either, but I heard someone mention it.
Do you
Someone
think?
mentioned those idiots who do their own research, and
Do you think you can find it?
I I'm not even going to try to find it, I, because I already know that that's what those people think of people who do their own research. They're not good peasants that won't listen to what we say,
Well,
so they're idiots.
I remember Don Lemon saying that people like me, black people like me, who would dare to vote for Donald Trump, we are token Negroes. He said this on live television. We're token Negroes because we voted for him. And what he had a guest on the show that says this is what happens when Negroes don't know how to read.
Yeah.
Because we would dare to vote for something else. And I don't have a problem with anybody using the word Negro. I mean, it just means black. And blacks in the old day didn't have a problem with it either. But just if we're supposed to be offended by it, and they're supposed to be the virtuous ones, the ones of moral superiority, and they're calling me a Negro because I don't agree with them.
Yeah, of course. It's to be expected. They essentially have immunity to the moral rules that the rest of us must follow.
Because we've abdicated the power to make that rule to them. And we see a lot more of that. And if you compare television now to television then, we see how far we have fallen as a civilization. Well, I won't even say a civilization. Oh yeah, as a civilization, as a people in America. When our entertainment has changed so much to where cartoons are not for children anymore. I mean, cartoons when they first began weren't supposed to be for children, supposed to be for the family. But I can't think of a cartoon on television right now that is actually meant for children or is good for children to watch. Except for something on PBS Kids, probably. Arthur, but I think Arthur stopped after. I think they can't. It doesn't. There's no more new episodes of Arthur, if I remember correctly. I think they finally finished that. But
Dude, what time? How long have we been? We need to
yeah, we're
get
an
this
hour
over
and
with.
40 minutes. Anyways, so we've had a good conversation here. I think we've had one. I wanted to ask you one other question here. This is not related on any of the political stuff. I was watching a video before I took my nap before we were going to do the show here, and I was looking at the sizes of celestial bodies, these planets and things in the universe compared to other things. And I was looking at the moons of Saturn. Did you notice some of the moons of Saturn could fit in a city block?
I mean, I knew most of them were pretty small. Most moons are relatively small. I mean, our moon is actually massive compared to almost every other moon.
Yeah, I was actually kind of shocked by that myself. I was
Our
looking
moon
at
is actually like a planetoid. I mean,
yeah,
I think Pluto's
it's
smaller than our moon.
Pluto
It
is
is.
Pluto's considered to be Pluto's had an interesting history. It was a planet, then it became a moon. Now it's a dwarf planet.
Yeah. Well, it's a dwarf planet because it doesn't orbit a larger planet. But people fought against that for so. I'm just like, dude, a planet is a classification of celestial body, and the dwarf planet dividing line is based on size. So why would you be? It's just like it's stupid to be mad about that.
Just let
But
Pluto
when
be a
Pluto was
planet.
first discovered, they didn't know how small it was, so that's why they label it a planet.
But then and I'm looking at it and I'm like, I didn't realize how uh, our sun is considered to be a dwarf star. I didn't realize that. And when you compare it to uh Antares, how big Antares is compared to our sun is it's like a rock compared to Antares.
Yeah, it's not a magnificently sun. There's also plenty of stars that are
Oh yeah,
smaller than our sun as well. It's kind of on the low end of average size.
yeah. And then I've seen super hyper stars, hyper giant stars. I mean, these things are massive. And then, of course, you get the quasars and black holes. But do you ever just look at some videos like that where you see the size comparisons of
Yeah,
things?
yeah. There's so many interesting different types of celestial bodies that would be under the star classification, like pulsars, quasars, magnetars.
Now, quasars get
Um,
get to be pretty massive.
well, magnetars usually aren't that big, but they have like their magnetic field is directed in two directions at their poles, and it just like if you find a picture of it.
And then you have dwarf galaxies, and then our galaxy is one of the bigger galaxies, but still relatively small in comparison to some of the other ones. Uh, it's just phenomenal to see all of these things, and the fact that uh I think what I saw a report. I'm not sure. I haven't read into it yet, but I saw a report, in passing, that NASA had saw a star uh, go supernova into a black hole. So before we didn't have any real evidence of black holes. We theorized black holes' existence. We could see what potentially could be black holes, but now, according to NASA, we've actually now seen the birth of a black hole.
Yeah, they used to be like mostly theoretical, but we actually have a photograph of one now.
And I think that's just very interesting. I wonder if they'll ever send a probe up there to see if the black hole actually does what we theorized it to do, which is, infinitely crush things. Well, it does more than that, but
Black holes, like, it depends on their mass. Usually they're depicted as in like people think of them as like they just suck everything in, but that's not really what they do. And only when you don't get pulled into it. Only when you cross the event horizon.
yeah, and
But it doesn't have like if there was a black hole with the mass of our sun, it would pull. It would have the same gravity as our sun. So
yeah,
you could orbit us. Planets could orbit a black hole just like they orbit a star.
yeah, that's a lot of people don't understand that. And in theory, the center of our universe is a massive, massive black hole, light years, hundreds of thousands of light years in distance and length. at its diameter,
We call that a supermassive black hole.
and everything orbits that black hole. And if we believe that the universe is ever expanding, then it can't be getting pulled in at the same time orbiting it if it's expanding from this central point. But also, I've been researching stuff on black holes, and black holes have the conditions have to be right for a black hole to even stabilize before it can actually start building mass. Smaller stars, stars that are significantly smaller than our sun, many of them don't have the mass appropriate to actually even stabilize and begin to start creating the gravitational pull necessary in order to do what black holes are theorized to do. It's just interesting stuff. But with that being said, I want to thank you, Rhett, for joining me here. I want to thank you guys for joining us here. There will not be a show this Wednesday because I don't think Jay's going to be doing one. I will be working, and there will not be a show next weekend because my birthday is on Tuesday, so I will be taking next weekend off to go do some birthday stuff. Not sure what I'm going to do, but I'm going to be doing some birthday stuff next weekend. So we will see you back again, not this Wednesday, but the following Wednesday and the following weekend after that. So with that being said, like, share, download our content on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere you can find us. Story of America, Story of America, Payson Williams, Story of America PW. Also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Truth Social. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Make sure you click the notification bell so you can get all of our videos and content whenever we upload. And we will see you guys